The Cold War officially ended in 1991. The Soviet Union was gone, but rivalry that never really went away. Today, across Europe, tanks are once again facing off against other tanks. Missile defense systems are on high alert, and the world feels closer to a major war than it has in decades. This isn't a history lesson about the past. This is the story of the new Cold War and how Russia and NATO found themselves back on the brink. After the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia was a shadow of its former self, economically weak and politically humiliated. During this time, NATO, the Western military alliance, began to expand eastward. Countries that were once part of the Soviet bloc, like Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic, all joined. To the West, this was simply about providing security and welcoming new democracies. But to Russia, it looked like a threat. It felt like the West was taking advantage of their weakness, moving military power right up to their borders. The old wounds of the Cold War, the deep-seated mistrust, never fully healed. They just got covered up for a while. Then, in the year 2000, Vladimir Putin came to power. He had a clear and powerful message for the Russian people. He would restore Russia's strength. He promised to reclaim the influence they had lost and, most importantly, to draw a line in the sand. He would stop NATO from expanding any closer. Russia started to rebuild its military, assert itself on the world stage, and push back against Western policies. It wasn't loud or obvious at first, but the old game of shadows was starting again. The Cold War was returning, quietly. Everything changed in 2014. Following a pro-Western revolution in Ukraine, Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula. The world was stunned. This was the first time since World War II that a European country had annexed territory from another. The West responded with economic sanctions. Tensions that had been simmering for years suddenly exploded into an open confrontation. Then, in February 2022, the situation escalated dramatically. Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. In response, NATO countries poured weapons and financial aid into Ukraine to help it defend itself. Russia, feeling cornered, began to issue threats of nuclear retaliation. The world held its breath, frozen by the terrifying possibility of a direct clash between nuclear powers. This new Cold War looks different, but it's just as dangerous. We're not just talking about tanks and soldiers anymore. Both sides are racing to develop hypersonic missiles, weapons that travel so fast they are nearly impossible to stop. They are modernizing their nuclear arsenals, making them more precise and usable. And then there's the invisible battlefield of cyberspace, where attacks on critical infrastructure like power grids or financial systems can cause chaos without a single shot being fired. The technology has changed, but the fundamental danger is exactly the same. One mistake, one miscalculation by either side, could trigger a global catastrophe that we can't even begin to imagine. And just as this new standoff was taking shape, another global player entered the game. China, which had been quietly growing for decades, emerged as a true superpower. It began to challenge the United States for economic and military dominance. It formed a closer partnership with Russia, offering diplomatic and economic support. And it made increasingly bold threats toward Taiwan, an island it considers a rogue province. For the very first time in history, the United States and its allies found themselves facing two powerful rival superpowers at the same time. The world was no longer a simple contest between East and West. It became multipolar and dangerously unstable. The Cold War never truly ended. It just went dormant for a while, and has now evolved into something more complex and perhaps even more unpredictable. The conflicts we see today are shaping the world our children will inherit. To understand the forces driving these events and what might come next, subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.